Hey everybody. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. This isn't a Bible class, but I do think it's important to hear from somebody at Plaza some information about the coronavirus. And Danny, I want you to give everybody a little background. I know everybody at Plaza knows who you are, but a little background who you are and what you do.
Well, I'm Danny Ford, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and that is someone that specializes in the treatment of musculoskeletal diseases. I'm not an infectious disease expert, and I'm not a primary care physician who has a lot of experience with infectious disease, but Jonathan and I were talking about it and thought it might be a good idea to give the congregation some information about the coronavirus and then share it with you, and that way you'll have some resources to look at and go to.
So, Danny, the first thing I want to ask you is, what is the coronavirus?
Well, the coronavirus is a new virus. It's also known as the COVID-19 virus that primarily causes respiratory disease, and it was first identified in China and has spread throughout the world.
So, how does it spread so quickly? I mean, this thing is growing at a rate that I haven't seen anything else in my life spread.
Well, a lot of people with the disease has minimal symptoms or perhaps no symptoms at all, and so they were able to freely travel in and out of China undetected, exposing a large percentage of the population.
How does it spread from person to person?
Primarily through two avenues. The first and the most common is person to person, where if you're within, say, close contact, 6 feet or less, the person that's infected, if he coughs or sneezes, he produces contaminated respiratory droplets, and then the person nearby can either inhale them, or the second method, which is touching contaminated surfaces, where that virus gets on a surface, like even your shirt or whatever, and you rub it, and then you maybe touch your eyes, your nose, or your mouth, and eventually it gets in your system.
So, I don't know if you've heard this, but one of the things that I've seen is a lot of younger people aren't taking this thing serious. And even spring breakers are going to the beach and are staying there in Florida because they don't think they're at risk. And I was wondering, who exactly is a potential person at risk with this disease?
You brought up a very good point. There's some misinformation out there that the younger people aren't at risk, but that is simply not true. Everyone is at risk. However, older people, kind of defined as greater than 65 years of age, and those with underlying medical conditions are at greater risk of developing a more serious illness than some of the younger people that are healthy. But everyone is at risk, and there has been children that died from this.
So what can be done to prevent catching it, especially from those that are high risk?
Well, number of things. First, avoid close contact with people. Try to stay that social distance of 6 feet, especially if you're sick, and avoid touching your eyes, your nose, and your mouth. Wash your hands frequently with soap and water, and if you don't have soap and water available, use a hand sanitizer. Another is avoid handshaking. We got where we do the elbow bump and things like that, and touching high surface areas like elevator buttons and doorknobs and handrails and things where other people would frequently touch. And then at home, clean and disinfect, again, high surface touch areas, where even your own family touches all the time, the doorknobs, clean those more frequently. And then avoid crowds, especially non-essential travel, such as getting on a plane and flying somewhere, and especially a cruise ship.
So what can be done to prevent spreading it?
Well, first of all, if you're sick, stay at home. And if you cough or sneeze, try to do appropriately. They're talking about doing coughing into your elbow instead of your hands. If you use a tissue, get rid of it quickly, and again, clean and disinfect areas that are highly touched.
What do symptoms typically look like?
Well, the most common symptoms of the coronavirus is respiratory symptoms. You get a fever, you get a dry cough, and then shortness of breath. However, you may also get, the common flu symptoms such as aches and pains, congestion, runny nose, and even diarrhea.
So let's say I do get sick. What should I do if that happens?
Well, remember that most people that will get the disease, it will be very mild symptoms, and you really don't have to do anything except supportive care. Stay at home, don't spread it more, and the people that do get sick and start developing more serious illness, they need to come, and especially warning signs such as they're getting chest pain, shortness of breath, difficulty breathing. They need to seek medical attention immediately. And before you do, though, you call ahead to your primary care physician or the ER and tell them what symptoms you're having so they can instruct you on what to do and where to go.
What is the current treatment for the virus?
Basically, supportive care, because we don't have a vaccine to prevent it or a cure or medicine to cure it at this time. However, they're working very hard to try to develop a vaccine and a medicine to treat it.
So, how has this impacted your work as an orthopedic surgeon?
Greatly. Unlike primary care physicians that see patients every day, as an orthopedic surgeon, our days are divided up into clinic days and surgery days. And typically on a clinic day, I will see anywhere between 50 and 60 patients a day. And on surgery days, I perform anywhere from 5 to 8 surgeries a day, depending on the length of the surgery. Currently, I'm seeing about 5 to 10 patients a day and not doing any surgery except emergency surgery.
So, a lot of people are taking this virus uber serious, and they're locking down the hatches, and they're keeping all their toilet paper so that they've got it stockpiled. And then there are others that don't take it serious at all and are doing whatever in the world they want and are going wherever in the world they want. And I was wondering, how serious should we take this pandemic?
We should take it very serious. Again, there's still a lot we don't know about it, and we don't currently have a vaccine to prevent it or a medicine to cure it. So we should take it very seriously.
So, we have had pandemics in the past. It seems like almost like every election year there's Ebola or whatever, but even historically. So, in 1918 they had that Spanish flu epidemic that killed nearly 1 million people in the United States. How does this virus compare to those?
Well, very, very much like the rest of them. At first, when this first starts with any pandemic, it's like first thing, what is this? And where did it come from? And how's it spreading? And how can we test for it? And then how can we treat it? How can we develop a vaccine? So those characteristics are the same for any pandemic. But eventually, just like the other pandemics, they figured it out and got control of it, and God willing, they'll figure this one out and get control of it as well.
So there's no new thing under the sun. I think I hear a lot of people say, "Well, I've never seen anything like this," and there hasn't quite been anything like it. But there are also a lot of overlap between this, and there are things that we can learn from previous things that we can learn now. So it's a high stress time, and you're a person of faith, believe in Christ, you're a Christian. How are you living by faith and are giving hope to those that are around you during this pandemic?
Well, I think the first thing to do is remember to follow the recommendations as instructed and do a lot of prayer, because God is watching over us and He will get us through this.
So what can we do as members of the church to help now?
Pray. Pray for those that have the virus. Pray for those that are high risk of developing the virus. Pray for the medical professionals and caregivers that are taking care of the patients with the virus. Pray for the researchers that are trying to figure out how to treat the virus and develop a vaccine to prevent the virus. Pray for our leaders, help them put aside this partisan politics and do the right thing and for the country. And pray for families that are, it's very stressful right now. People are losing their jobs, they're getting financial stress. Let's pray for them, and pray for those that that are, you know, going day to day throughout their life and trying to do everything. Help them to follow the guidelines, and pray for them to follow the guidelines and do as instructed.
So I think it's important that we stress prayer, and I think it's awesome that you bring it up. And it reminds me of a passage in the New Testament. I think it's Acts chapter 10. Peter is in prison, and King Herod Agrippa does everything in his power to set up these watches of the night. Essentially, he puts him in the ultimate prison situation, and there's no way he can get out. And he wants to kill Peter as an example to the Jewish people that are there, because King Herod Agrippa wanted to be popular, and he knew as soon as this Passover festival was finished, he was going to kill Paul. There was no hope for him. And one of the interesting things it tells us in the passage is that as all of this negative was going on, the very first word of hope that's brought up in that passage is it says, and the church was together praying. That was the first thing of hope. And there's going to be hope in this situation. I think you're right. We need to be a people of prayer all the time, but we definitely need to be in prayer right now. And it has serious, awesome impact. Is there anything else you want to share with the congregation?
Yes, there is. I would like to share let's all remember the story of Noah and the great flood, which was the ultimate quarantine. If you remember, it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, and Noah and his family was confined to an ark. They didn't have windows, balconies, turrets. They didn't have cell phones, internet, TVs, and have Facebook, YouTube. They only heard the rain. And they spent their time praying, loving one another, and taking care of the animals. And God looked after them because Noah was a man of faith and obeyed him. And remember this, even though we are currently living in an ocean of viruses and it seems like a stormy ride, God is watching over us. Don't be afraid, be faithful, and be patient. The rain will stop, the rainbow will come out, and we will be well once again.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Danny, for meeting
You're
with me. I really
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. And thank you for tuning in.